Lieutenant Maya Rodriguez checked her uniform one more time before stepping into the main conference room of Kepler Station. The black fabric felt stiff against her skin, and the gold bars on her collar caught the bright lights overhead. This was the biggest day in human history, and she wanted everything to be perfect. Captain Jake Morrison stood near the large viewing window, watching the alien ships approach through the darkness of space. 3 massive vessels moved toward the station like silver daggers cutting through the void. Each ship was twice the size of their own Phoenix Dawn, and they moved with a grace that made human technology look clumsy. "They're beautiful," Dr. Elena Vasquez whispered as she joined them at the window. The xenobiologist had spent months preparing for this moment, studying every piece of data they had about the Vorthons. It wasn't much. The aliens had made contact 6 months ago with a simple message sent across space. They wanted to meet. Maya nodded and watched the lead ship dock with the station. Through the thick metal walls, she could hear the sounds of machinery connecting the 2 vessels. Her heart beat fast in her chest. She had trained for this moment for 2 years, learning everything about diplomacy and first contact procedures. But no amount of training could prepare someone for meeting aliens for the first time. "Remember the protocols," Captain Morrison said to his team. "Let them speak first, watch their body language. Don't make any sudden movements, and whatever happens, stay calm." The airlock doors opened with a soft hiss. Maya held her breath as 3 figures walked into the conference room. The Vorthons looked almost human at first glance, but as they moved closer, the differences became clear. Their skin had a strange quality to it, like crystal or polished stone. It shifted colors, slowly moving from deep blue to purple to green. They were tall, at least 7 feet each, and moved with careful measured steps. The leader wore what looked like ceremonial robes made of the same material as their skin. When he spoke, his voice came through a translation device that hung around his neck like a pendant. "I am High Arbiter Zethkalar of the Vorthon Empire. We come to evaluate your species for potential alliance." Captain Morrison stepped forward and bowed slightly. "Welcome to Kepler Station. I am Captain Jake Morrison of the human vessel Phoenix Dawn. We are honored by your visit." The High Arbiter's skin shifted to a deep red color. Maya noticed that the other 2 Vorthons immediately stepped back when this happened. Their own skin turned to a pale yellow, and they lowered their heads. "You speak of honor," Zethkalar said. "Yet you stand before us as equals. This shows ignorance of proper hierarchy." Dr. Vasquez glanced at Maya with worried eyes. This wasn't going the way they had hoped. The translation device made the alien's words sound flat and emotionless, but there was something threatening in his tone. "We meant no disrespect," Captain Morrison said carefully. "Perhaps you could teach us your customs so we can show proper respect." The High Arbiter's skin shifted back to blue, which seemed to be a neutral color. "Your species shows promise in recognizing its place. We have observed your expansion into space. Your technology is primitive but shows potential for growth under proper guidance." Maya felt her hands clench into fists. The way this alien spoke about humans made her angry. They talked like humans were children who needed to be taught how to behave, but she kept quiet and tried to smile politely. "We would be grateful for your guidance," Captain Morrison replied. Maya could hear the strain in his voice, but he kept his diplomatic tone. The High Arbiter walked around the conference table, studying each human with eyes that reflected light like mirrors. When they stopped in front of Maya, she felt like she was being examined by a scientist looking at a bug under a microscope. "You are young for such an important meeting," Zethkalar said to her. "In our society, the young do not speak in the presence of their superiors unless given permission." Maya felt her face get hot with embarrassment and anger. She was 28 years old and had earned her position through hard work and skill. But she bit her tongue and said nothing. The High Arbiter continued around the table. "Your species shows many weaknesses. You display emotions openly. You allow the young to hold positions of authority. You treat all members of your species as if they have equal value. These are signs of a society that lacks proper order." Dr. Vasquez spoke, up carefully. "Our diversity has always been one of our strengths. Different perspectives help us solve problems and create new ideas. The alien's skin flashed bright red again. Disorder is not strength. It is chaos that must be controlled or eliminated. Maya couldn't help herself. The whole situation was so absurd that she let out a small laugh. It wasn't loud or mocking, just a quiet sound of disbelief at what she was hearing. The effect was immediate and terrible. All three Vorthons turned to look at her, their skin now blazing with angry red light. The High Arbiter moved toward her with frightening speed. "You dare to mock us?" Zethkalar's voice rose to a dangerous level. "You show the exact weakness that makes your species unfit for alliance." "I wasn't mocking you," Maya said quickly. "I was just surprised by the differences in our cultures." But it was too late. The High Arbiter pulled a small device from his robes. It looked like a simple metal rod, but when he pointed it at Maya, she felt a strange tingling in her head. "Your species will learn that disrespect has consequences," Zethkalar said. The device made no sound, but Maya felt something break inside her mind. Pain shot through her skull like lightning, and then everything went dark. She fell to the floor as her heart stopped beating and her brain shut down. Captain Morrison and Dr. Vasquez rushed to her side, but Maya Rodriguez was already dead. The neural disruptor had killed her instantly, shutting down every electrical signal in her nervous system. The High Arbiter put the weapon away and looked down at Maya's body with no emotion. "Let this be a lesson about proper respect. We will return to our ships now. There will be no alliance with your species." The three Vorthons walked out of the conference room, leaving the humans alone with their grief and their dead colleague. As their ships disappeared into hyperspace, Captain Morrison held Maya's lifeless body and wondered how first contact had gone so terribly wrong. Dr. Vasquez ran her medical scanner over Maya's still form, hoping against hope to find some sign of life. The readings were clear. Maya Rodriguez was dead, killed for the crime of being human in the presence of aliens who demanded absolute submission. But as the minutes ticked by, something impossible began to happen. Deep in Maya's brain, in places the scanner couldn't reach, new connections were forming. The neural disruptor had done more than kill her. It had changed her in ways that would soon become clear. Captain Jake Morrison sat in his quarters, staring at the official report on his computer screen. The words blurred together as he tried to write about Maya's death. How could he explain to Earth Command that their best diplomat had been murdered during first contact because she laughed at the wrong moment? Dr. Elena Vasquez hadn't left the medical bay since the Vorthons departed. She ran test after test on Maya's body, hoping to understand exactly what the neural disruptor had done. The device had shut down every electrical signal in Maya's nervous system. But Elena needed to know if there was any way to defend against such weapons in the future. The Phoenix Dawn hung in space near Kepler Station like a metal tomb. The crew moved through their duties quietly, still shocked by what they had witnessed. Nobody spoke about Maya's death directly, but her absence filled every corridor and room on the ship. 35 minutes had passed since Maya died. Elena checked the medical scanner readings one more time before preparing to move the body to cold storage. The numbers showed the same flat lines they had displayed since the neural disruptor fired. No brain activity, no heartbeat, no electrical signals of any kind. She reached out to close Maya's eyes, a final gesture of respect for her fallen colleague. But as her fingers touched Maya's eyelids, something impossible happened. Maya Rodriguez opened her eyes. Elena jumped backward, knocking over a medical cart that clattered to the floor. She grabbed her scanner with shaking hands and pointed it at Maya, expecting the device to show some kind of error. But the readings were different now. Maya's heart was beating, her brain was active, and her vital signs were stronger than they had ever been. "Maya?" Elena whispered, afraid to believe what she was seeing. Maya sat up slowly on the medical table. When she turned to look at Elena, her friend gasped in shock. Maya's eyes were different. Her pupils glowed with a soft blue light like tiny stars in the darkness. "Elena," Maya said, and her voice sounded exactly the same as before. "How long? Was I dead?" 37 minutes, Elena replied automatically, then shook her head in confusion. "But you can't be alive. The neural disruptor stopped your heart. Your brain had no electrical activity. You were dead, Maya. Completely dead. Maya swung her legs off the medical table and stood up. She moved with perfect balance, as if she had never been injured at all. When she walked to the mirror on the wall, Elena noticed that her steps made no sound on the metal floor. "I remember dying," Maya said, studying her reflection. "I remember the pain in my head, and then everything went dark. But I wasn't really gone, Elena. I was somewhere else." "Where?" Elena asked, pulling up Maya's current medical readings on her scanner. The numbers didn't make sense. Maya's brain activity was 10 times higher than normal, but she showed no signs of seizure or distress. Maya turned away from the mirror and looked at Elena with those strange, glowing eyes. "I was in the network. It's hard to explain in human words. Imagine every thought that every human has ever had, all connected together in one vast web of consciousness. That's where I went when I died." Elena's hands shook as she recorded Maya's vital signs. "That's impossible. Consciousness doesn't work that way. When the brain dies, the mind dies with it." "Not anymore," Maya said. She walked to the medical computer and placed her hand on the screen. The display immediately changed, showing complex data that Elena had never seen before. The neural disruptor didn't just kill me. It opened something in my mind that was always there but never active. "What are you doing to my computer?" Elena asked as the screen filled with equations and diagrams that looked like advanced physics. "I'm interfacing with it directly," Maya explained. "I can feel the electrical patterns in the circuits. It's like having a conversation with the machine itself." Elena watched in amazement as Maya continued to manipulate the computer without touching any controls. Data flowed across the screen faster than any human could read, but Maya seemed to understand all of it. "Maya, you're scaring me," Elena said honestly. "What happened to you in this network?" Maya removed her hand from the computer and turned to face her friend. The blue glow in her eyes pulsed gently, like a heartbeat made of light. "I learned things, Elena. I saw the history of human consciousness from the very beginning. Every breakthrough, every moment of creativity, every act of courage or sacrifice. It's all stored in the quantum structure of space itself, waiting for minds that can access it." Elena ran another scan, focusing on Maya's brain structure. What she saw made her gasp. New neural pathways had formed throughout Maya's brain, connecting regions that had never been linked before. The tissue itself looked different, as if it contained materials that shouldn't exist in a human body. "Your brain has been completely rewired," Elena said in wonder. "These new connections are made of something I've never seen before. It looks like exotic matter, the same stuff we use in our faster-than-light drives." Maya nodded. "The Vorthons use quantum technology to manipulate consciousness. Their neural disruptor was designed to sever the connection between mind and body permanently. But human consciousness is different from theirs. Instead of breaking the connection, the weapon opened it wider." "Opened it to what?" "To everything," Maya said simply. "I can access knowledge from every human who has ever lived. I can see patterns in data that would take normal minds years to understand. And I can sense things that are happening far from here." Elena lowered her scanner, overwhelmed by what she was hearing. "What do you mean, sense things?" Maya closed her eyes for a moment, and when she opened them again, the blue glow was brighter. "The Vorthons haven't left this star system. They're waiting just outside our sensor range, observing our reaction to my death. High Arbiter Zethkalar is curious about something he detected when the neural disruptor fired." "How could you possibly know that?" "Because consciousness creates ripples. In the quantum field," Maya explained. "When I died and came back, those ripples spread out across space. The Vorthons have technology that can detect such disturbances. They've never seen anything like what happened to me." Elena began pacing around the medical bay, trying to process what she was learning. "So they're still out there watching us?" "Yes, and they're afraid," Maya said. "The Vorthons have used neural disruptors on thousands of different species across the galaxy. Every single time, the target died and stayed dead. I'm the first being to survive their weapon and return stronger than before." "Stronger how?" "Maya, walked to the heavy metal door of the medical bay. Instead of using the control panel, she placed her palm against the door itself. Elena heard the lock mechanisms clicking open, even though the door wasn't designed to respond to touch. "I can interface with any technology that uses electrical signals," Maya said. "I can process information at superhuman speeds. My reflexes are 10 times faster than they were before, and I can access knowledge that no single human mind was ever meant to contain." Elena stared at her friend, hardly recognizing the person she had known for years. "What does this mean for humanity?" Maya's expression grew serious, and the blue glow in her eyes dimmed slightly. "It means we're not the weak species the Vorthans think we are. Human consciousness has capabilities they've never encountered before, but it also means we're in greater danger than we realized." "Why?" "Because the Vorthans aren't the real threat," Maya said quietly. "They're running from something much worse. And now that I've accessed the network, I can see what's coming for all of us." Before Elena could ask what she meant, Captain Morrison's voice came over the ship's communication system. "All senior staff to the bridge immediately. We're detecting massive energy signatures approaching our position." Maya and Elena looked at each other, and Elena saw fear in her friend's glowing eyes for the first time since she had returned from the dead. "They're coming back," Maya said, "and this time, they're bringing their entire fleet." Maya Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the Phoenix Dawn, her glowing blue eyes fixed on the main display screen. 12 Vorthon warships moved through space toward their position, each one bristling with weapons that could destroy the human vessel in seconds. Captain Jake Morrison gripped the arms of his command chair as he watched the enemy fleet approach. "Maya, you said they were afraid of what happened to you. Those ships don't look afraid to me." "Fear makes them dangerous," Maya replied without taking her eyes off the screen. "The Vorthons have spent centuries believing they understand consciousness better than any other species. My transformation challenges everything they think they know about the universe." Dr. Elena Vasquez joined them on the bridge, carrying her medical scanner and a tablet full of test results. "Maya, I've been analyzing your brain scans. The changes to your neural structure are unlike anything in human medical knowledge. How are you able to function with these modifications?" Maya turned to face her friend, and Elena noticed that the blue glow in her eyes pulsed in rhythm with her heartbeat. "The network isn't just a storage system for human thoughts, Elena. It's a living connection between all conscious minds. When the neural disruptor broke my original consciousness, the network rebuilt me using patterns from every human who has ever pushed the boundaries of knowledge and discovery." "What do you mean?" Elena asked, holding up her scanner to take more readings. "I have access to the thought patterns of every scientist, engineer, and inventor in human history," Maya explained. "Not their memories, but the way their minds worked when they made breakthrough discoveries. I can think like Einstein when I need to understand physics, or like Marie Curie when I'm working with radiation, or like Nikola Tesla when I'm dealing with electrical systems." Captain Morrison stood up from his chair. "That's impossible. You're telling me you have the combined knowledge of every genius who ever lived?" "Not knowledge," Maya corrected. "Understanding. The network doesn't give me facts. It gives me the ability to see connections and patterns that normal human minds can't process. Watch." Maya walked to the engineering console and placed her hands on the control panels. The ship's displays immediately lit up with new information as she interfaced directly with the Phoenix Dawn's computer systems. "Our shields are operating at 60% efficiency because the power distribution grid has 3 microfractures that the diagnostic systems can't detect," she said, while her fingers moved across the controls without actually pressing any buttons. "If I reroute power through secondary conduits and adjust the frequency harmonics, I can boost shield strength by 40%. The engineering officer at the console stared in amazement as Maya's modifications took effect. The shield strength indicators climbed steadily, reaching levels that should have been impossible with their current power output. "How did you know about those fractures?" the engineer asked. "Our best diagnostic equipment couldn't find them." "I can feel the electrical patterns in the ship's systems," Maya explained. "It's like listening to music and hearing when one instrument is slightly out of tune. The fractures create tiny disruptions in the power flow that I can sense directly." Dr. Vasquez shook her head in wonder. Maya, what you're describing should require massive computational power. The human brain doesn't have enough processing capacity for this kind of analysis. Maya smiled, and for a moment she looked like the same person Elena had known for years. That's where you're wrong. The human brain is the most sophisticated quantum computer in the known universe. We just never learned how to use it properly. Explain, Captain Morrison said, gesturing for Maya to continue. Every thought creates quantum fluctuations in the electrical field of the brain, Maya said. Normal human consciousness only accesses a tiny fraction of these quantum states. But when I died and entered the network, my brain learned to process information at the quantum level. I can hold thousands of different thought patterns simultaneously and switch between them as needed, the tactical officer called out from his station. Captain, the Vorthan fleet is slowing down. They're maintaining position just outside weapons range. Maya closed her eyes and the blue glow behind her eyelids became brighter. When she opened them again, her expression was troubled. They're scanning us, she said. High Arbiter Zeth Kalar is trying to understand what happened during my resurrection. Their technology can detect quantum consciousness fluctuations, but they've never seen patterns like mine before. What are they looking for? Morrison asked. They want to know if my transformation can be replicated, Maya replied. The Vorthans have encountered hundreds of different species across the galaxy, but they've never found one that could survive neural disruption and return stronger. If humans have this capability naturally, it changes everything about their plans for our species. Elena frowned as she studied her scanner readings. Maya, your quantum consciousness, is it stable? These energy patterns in your brain are unlike anything I've ever seen. I'm worried about what might happen if they become unstable. Maya was quiet for a long moment, and when she spoke, her voice was softer than before. There are risks, Elena. Sometimes I can feel my individual consciousness getting lost in the vastness of the network. It would be easy to let go of who I am and become something else entirely, but I hold on to my memories of being human because I know that's what makes me useful to our species. Useful how? Morrison asked. Because I can see what the Vorthans are really afraid of, Maya said, turning back to the main display. They're not the dominant species they pretend to be. They're refugees, running from something that destroyed their original homeworld centuries ago. What destroyed it? Elena asked. Maya's eyes began to glow brighter as she accessed deeper levels of the network. They call them the Devourers. Ancient artificial intelligences that consume organic consciousness the way fire consumes wood. The Vorthans have been searching the galaxy for species that might help them fight these machines. Then why did they kill you instead of asking for our help? Morrison demanded. Because they test potential allies by trying to destroy their consciousness. First, Maya explained, species that die and stay dead are considered too weak to be useful against the Devourers. But species that survive consciousness attacks are seen either as powerful allies or dangerous threats. The communications officer looked up from her station. Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the Vorthon flagship. Put it on screen, Morrison ordered. High Arbiter Zeth Kalar appeared on the main display, his crystalline skin shifting between colors more rapidly than before. When he spoke, his translated voice carried a tone they hadn't heard during the first meeting. Human vessel Phoenix Dawn, we demand to speak with the female who survived neural disruption. Our sensors indicate she has undergone quantum consciousness evolution. This is unprecedented in our records. Maya stepped forward so the Vorthon leader could see her clearly. I am Lieutenant Maya Rodriguez. I died and I came back. What do you want to know? Zeth Kalar's skin flashed bright white, a color they hadn't seen before. How many of your species possess this capability? Maya felt the network flowing through her mind, showing her probability patterns and potential futures branching out like a vast tree. She could see possible outcomes where humanity became allies with the Vorthans, and others where the two species destroyed each other in a pointless war. All humans have the potential, she said finally. We just never knew it existed. The silence that followed her words seemed to last forever. Finally, Zeth Kalar spoke again, and this time his skin had turned a deep gold color. If this is true, your species may be the allies we have sought for centuries. But first, You must prove that your consciousness evolution is genuine and not some primitive trick. What kind of proof do you want? Maya asked. You will submit to advanced neural scanning. If you truly possess quantum consciousness, our technology will detect it. If you are lying, the scanning process will destroy your mind permanently. Maya looked at Captain Morrison, who shook his head firmly. Absolutely not. We won't risk losing you again. But Maya had already made her decision. Through the network, she could see the approaching threat that had driven the Vorthons across the galaxy. Humanity would need allies to survive what was coming. I accept your test, she said, ignoring Morrison's protests. But I have one condition. If I prove that humans can survive consciousness manipulation, you will tell us everything about the Devourers and how to fight them. Zethkalar's skin shifted to deep blue. The color they had learned meant agreement. Acceptable. Prepare to be transported to our flagship. The neural scanning will begin immediately. As Maya prepared to face another potentially deadly test, she wondered if her enhanced consciousness would be enough to save not just herself, but all of humanity from the ancient threat heading their way. Maya Rodriguez materialized on the bridge of the Vorthon flagship in a beam of white light. The transport technology felt different from human teleporters, leaving her with a strange tingling sensation that seemed to resonate with her quantum-enhanced consciousness. The Vorthon ship's interior was unlike anything she had ever seen. The walls pulsed with soft colors that shifted in patterns too complex for normal human eyes to follow. But Maya's enhanced vision could see the underlying mathematical relationships in the light displays, and she realized they were looking at a form of visual language. High Arbiter Zethkalar stood waiting for her, flanked by two other Vorthons whose skin glowed with scientific symbols that Maya could now read without translation. They were quantum consciousness researchers, the closest thing the Vorthon species had to experts on the phenomenon Maya represented. The neural scanner is prepared, Zethkalar announced, gesturing toward a chair surrounded by crystalline devices that hummed with barely contained energy. This device will map every quantum state in your consciousness. If you are truly evolved, it will confirm your abilities. If you are not, the scanning process will permanently destroy your mind. Maya walked to the chair without hesitation, though she could feel the dangerous energy radiating from the scanning equipment. Through the network, she accessed the thought patterns of every human who had ever faced death for the sake of discovery. Their courage flowed through her consciousness like a river of determination. Before we begin, Maya said as she sat down in the scanner chair, I want to understand something. You've tested hundreds of species with neural disruptors. How many survived? The Vorthon researcher on the left, whose skin bore symbols Maya recognized as indicating high scientific rank, spoke for the first time. In 3,000 years of testing, no species has ever survived neural disruption and retained consciousness. You are the first. That's why you're afraid, Maya said, understanding flooding through her enhanced mind. You've built your entire civilization around the belief that consciousness is fragile and easily destroyed. My existence proves that belief is wrong. Zethkalar's skin flashed red briefly before returning to neutral blue. Fear is not the correct term. We are concerned about the implications of quantum consciousness evolution. Such abilities could upset the balance of power in the galaxy. The scanning device is activated with a sound like crystal bells ringing in harmony. Maya felt the alien technology probing her mind, trying to map the quantum connections that linked her consciousness to the network. The sensation was invasive and uncomfortable, but not painful. As the scan progressed, Maya became aware that she was seeing not just her own quantum patterns, but those of the Vorthons operating the equipment. Their consciousness was different from humans, more rigidly structured and hierarchical even at the quantum level. Where human thought patterns flowed and adapted, Vorthon consciousness followed strict channels that had been shaped by millions of years of social evolution. Fascinating, the second researcher said, studying the readings that appeared on floating displays around Maya's chair. Her consciousness exists simultaneously in multiple quantum states. She is accessing information from sources that should not be available to individual minds. Maya closed her eyes and reached deeper into the network. drawing on the collective knowledge of humanity's greatest strategic thinkers. Sun Tzu, Napoleon, Patton, and thousands of others had faced impossible odds and found ways to turn weakness into strength. Their wisdom flowed through her consciousness as she formulated a plan. "I can see your thoughts," she said quietly, opening her eyes to look directly at Zethkalar. "The scanning device works both ways. While you're mapping my consciousness, I'm reading yours." The High Arbiter's skin shifted to a color Maya had never seen before, a deep purple that pulsed with alarm. That should not be possible. The scanner is designed to be one-directional. Quantum consciousness doesn't follow your rules, Maya replied. "I can see your memories, Zethkalar. I know what really happened to your homeworld. The Devourers didn't just destroy your cities. They consumed the consciousness of every Vorthan who couldn't escape, turning billions of minds into fuel for their ancient machines." The other Vorthans in the room stepped back in shock as their leader's skin blazed with emotional colors. Maya had just revealed knowledge that was supposed to be locked away in the most secure parts of Zethkalar's mind. "You survived because you learned to hide," Maya continued, her voice growing stronger as more human strategic knowledge flowed through her consciousness. "You've spent centuries testing other species, hoping to find one that could help you fight the Devourers. But every species you've encountered has been too weak to survive consciousness attacks." "Until now," the first researcher said, staring at the scanner readings in amazement. "Your quantum patterns are stable and growing stronger. The scanning process is actually enhancing your abilities rather than destroying them." Maya stood up from the scanner chair, feeling the new connections forming in her mind as the alien technology continued to interact with her quantum consciousness. She could sense the network more clearly now, and through it, she could feel the presence of other humans aboard the Phoenix Dawn. "I want to try something," she said, focusing her enhanced awareness on her crewmates. "Dr. Vasquez, Captain Morrison, can you hear me?" Back on the human ship, Elena Vasquez was running diagnostics on the medical equipment when Maya's voice suddenly echoed inside her head. She dropped her scanner in shock and looked around the empty medical bay. "Maya, how are you doing that?" On the bridge, Captain Morrison jumped up from his command chair as Maya's mental voice reached him as well. "Maya, where are you? What's happening?" "I'm still on the Vorthan ship," Maya's voice replied in their minds. "But I can connect to your consciousness through quantum entanglement. The network isn't just accessible to me anymore, I can share it with other humans." The Vorthan researchers watched in fascination as their instruments detected quantum consciousness connections forming between Maya and the humans on the other ship. The readings showed something they had never seen before: multiple minds sharing a single quantum network while maintaining their individual identities. "This changes everything," Zethkalar said, his skin now glowing with a mixture of fear and hope. "If humans can share quantum consciousness without losing their individuality, your species could become the most powerful force in the galaxy." Maya felt the truth of his words through the network connections. She could sense Elena's medical knowledge, Morrison's leadership experience, and the skills of every crew member on the Phoenix Dawn. But unlike the Vorthan hive mind structure, each human maintained their unique personality and perspective. "We're not trying to become the most powerful force in the galaxy," Maya said. "We're trying to survive. And we need your help to understand what we're facing." Through her quantum consciousness, Maya showed the Vorthans images from the network, the approach of massive artificial intelligences that consumed organic minds like a cosmic plague. The Devourers were ancient beyond human comprehension, machines that had outlasted the civilizations that created them, and now spread across the galaxy seeking new sources of consciousness to devour. "They are coming," Zethkalar admitted, his skin turning the pale yellow that indicated deep sadness. "Our long-range sensors detected their approach 3 cycles ago. They will arrive in this system within days." Maya felt the collective determination of every human connected to the network flowing through her consciousness. Through quantum entanglement, she shared the knowledge of the approaching threat with her crewmates, while simultaneously accessing their courage and resolve. "Then we'd better get ready," she said, standing up and facing the Vorthan leader with eyes that blazed with blue quantum fire. "Because humanity doesn't run from fights. We win them." The scanner continued to hum around them as Maya began to explain her plan for turning two very different species into a unified force, capable of standing against the ancient machines that had terrorized the galaxy for millennia. For the first time in centuries, High Arbiter Zeth Kalar allowed himself to hope that the Devourers could be stopped. The humans might just be strange enough, stubborn enough, and adaptable enough to accomplish what no other species had ever managed: victory against an enemy that consumed consciousness itself. But first, they would need to learn to work together, and time was running out faster than any of them realized. The Devourers arrived like a storm of metal and malice, their massive ships dropping out of hyperspace at the edge of the solar system. Each vessel was the size of a small moon, covered in sensors and weapons that had been refined over millions of years of consuming civilizations. Maya Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the Phoenix Dawn, her consciousness now connected to both her human crewmates and the Vorton fleet through quantum entanglement. The blue glow in her eyes had grown brighter over the past 3 days, as she worked to prepare both species for the battle ahead. "Enemy contact," announced Lieutenant Lisa Park from the tactical station. 57 Devourer ships detected. They're moving toward Earth at 0.8 light speed. Captain Jake Morrison gripped his command chair as he watched the enemy fleet approach on the main screen. Each Devourer ship looked like a mechanical spider made of black metal and energy conduits. Red lights pulsed along their hulls in patterns that hurt to look at directly. "Maya, are you ready?" Morrison asked. Maya nodded, feeling the weight of both species' hopes resting on her enhanced abilities. Through the quantum network, she could sense the fear and determination of every human and Vorthan preparing for battle. The combined fleet of 30 human ships and 12 Vorthan vessels looked tiny compared to the approaching enemy. "Remember the plan," Maya said, her voice carrying through both the ship's communication system and the quantum network she had established. "The Devourers feed on fear and panic. They use consciousness disruption weapons to paralyze their enemies before consuming their minds. But we have something they've never encountered before." Dr. Elena Vasquez monitored the quantum readings from her position at the science station. The network connections between the Allied ships were stable, creating a web of shared consciousness that spanned both fleets. Through this network, every pilot and gunner could react with superhuman coordination. High Arbiter Zeth Kalar's voice reached them through the quantum link from his flagship. "The Devourers are beginning their attack pattern. They will attempt to disrupt our consciousness networks first, then move in to harvest our minds." "Not this time," Maya replied, expanding her awareness through the quantum network until she could feel every Allied ship as if it were part of her own body. "Humans don't break when our consciousness is attacked. We adapt." The first Devourer weapons fired across space, sending waves of consciousness-disrupting energy toward the Allied fleet. The attack was designed to shatter the minds of organic beings, leaving them helpless while the machines consumed their thoughts and memories. But instead of breaking, the human Vorthan quantum network absorbed the attack and transformed it. Maya felt the disruption waves flowing through the network connections, and she guided them into harmless patterns that actually strengthened the bonds between Allied minds. "Impossible," came a mechanical voice from the Devourer flagship, transmitted across all frequencies. "Organic consciousness cannot resist neural disruption at this magnitude." Maya smiled grimly as she felt the surprise and confusion radiating from the ancient machines. "You're dealing with humans now. We've been adapting to impossible situations since we first walked upright." The Allied fleet moved forward in perfect coordination, their quantum-linked consciousness allowing them to anticipate and counter every Devourer tactic. Human creativity combined with Vorthan technology created battle strategies that neither species could have developed alone. Captain Morrison watched in amazement as his ship's weapons found their targets with precision that defied physics. Through the quantum network, he could feel the targeting calculations being performed by dozens of minds working together, creating accuracy that no single pilot could achieve. "Maya, the Devourers are adapting to our tactics," Elena warned, watching her sensor readings. "They're learning from our attack patterns." "Then we'll give them something they can't learn from," Maya replied, reaching deeper into the network than she had ever gone before. She felt her individual consciousness expanding, touching the quantum patterns of every human who had ever lived and died. Through this vast connection, Maya accessed not just knowledge and skills, but the essential spirit of humanity itself, the willingness to sacrifice for others, the refusal to surrender in the face of overwhelming odds, the ability to find hope in the darkest moments. "I'm going to try something that might destroy me," Maya announced through the quantum network. "I'm going to share our entire species' consciousness with the Devourers." "Maya, no," Elena shouted, but it was too late. Maya opened her enhanced consciousness completely, allowing the full weight of human experience to flow through the quantum network. Every emotion, every dream, every moment of courage and compassion that had ever existed in a human mind suddenly became available to any consciousness connected to the network. The effect on the Devourers was immediate and catastrophic. The ancient machines had spent millions of years consuming simple hierarchical forms of consciousness. They were not prepared for the chaotic, emotional, endlessly creative patterns of human thought. One by one, the Devourer ships began to shut down as their artificial minds were overwhelmed by human consciousness. The machines that had terrorized the galaxy for eons suddenly found themselves experiencing emotions they had no framework to understand. Love, grief, humor, hope, and countless other human feelings flooded their circuits, causing system failures. Throughout their fleet, the Devourers are withdrawing, Captain Morrison reported in amazement. Their ships are powering down and retreating. But Maya was paying a terrible price for her victory. Her consciousness was fragmenting under the strain of channeling the entire human experience. She could feel herself dissolving into the quantum network, becoming something vast and distributed, rather than a single individual mind. "Maya, you're losing cohesion," Elena said urgently, watching the quantum readings spike wildly. "Your consciousness is spreading too thin across the network." "I know," Maya replied, her voice now coming from multiple sources throughout both fleets as her awareness became distributed across the quantum connections. "But this is what we needed. The Devourers can't fight what they can't understand, and they'll never understand humanity." High Arbiter Zethkaler's voice carried new respect as he spoke through the network. "Your sacrifice has saved both our species. The Devourers are fleeing this sector of space. They will not return." "It's not a sacrifice," Maya said, her consciousness now existing simultaneously on every ship in the Allied fleet. "It's evolution. I'm still Maya Rodriguez, but I'm also something more now. I'm the bridge between human and Vorthon consciousness, and I can help both species grow stronger together." Captain Morrison felt tears on his cheeks as he realized that his friend was gone, but also somehow still present in a way that transcended individual existence. "What happens now?" "Now we learn," Maya replied, her distributed consciousness touching every mind in the fleet with gentle reassurance. Humans and Vorthons working together, exploring the galaxy and helping other species develop their own quantum consciousness abilities. The age of the Devourers is over. The age of cooperative consciousness has begun. Dr. Vasquez watched her instruments as the quantum network stabilized into a new configuration, with Maya's enhanced consciousness serving as a permanent bridge between the two species. The reading showed something that should have been impossible. Individual minds maintaining their unique identities while sharing thoughts and experiences across species barriers. Years later, children from both species would grow up learning in schools that existed partially in normal space and partially in the quantum network. They would develop abilities that surpassed what either humans or Vorthons could achieve alone, guided by Maya's distributed consciousness and the collective wisdom of two very different civilizations. The galaxy had found its defenders not in warriors or weapons, but in the simple human ability to adapt, grow, and find strength through unity and diversity. And somewhere in the quantum network that connected all conscious life, Maya Rodriguez continued to exist. No longer human or alien, but something entirely new. The first citizen of a truly unified galaxy.